Time now for the Educated Retirement Show with your host, Jay Kaplan. Jay discusses reverse mortgages and can answer your questions at 951-922-3532. Call lines are open at 951-922-3532. And now, here's Jay.
Yep, here's Jay, and I do want your questions, but I think you have to call in first before I know what the questions are. Now, if you don't like reverse mortgages or think there's something wrong with them, then I really want to talk to you, and I think that would be a great conversation. But like Sean and I were just talking, sometimes the right and the left don't like to talk to each other that much, and I think we, as a people, deserve a lot more talking back and forth. In any case, welcome to the Educated Retirement Radio Show here on KMET 1490 AM, where we contemplate retirement, how to best prepare for retirement, and how to stay busy and best happily retired. So today we are joined by Joe Franco, or well, let's get serious here. Joseph Franco, another repeat offender who's going to talk to us about small, medium-sized businesses from my financial point of view and how to best work and operate such businesses and easy way to keep them going. So I also want to give a quick shout out to Chris Bissonette for telling us about that book last week. And here it is. I actually bought it, ordered it, got it the next day. And it's pretty cool. It's kind of like all the original notes from Project Blue Book, except unredacted. And has a lot of the very silly excuses that we were told. Of course, you want to pay tribute to Kirk Douglas, but, you know, everybody's actually doing that, so I guess we don't need to do a lot of that. But for me, the first movie that comes to mind is The Bad and the Beautiful, and the music that goes with it, of course, too. I think it was David Raskin, was it not? I'm not sure. Somebody could tell me if they want to. But what's really important to me is the fact that Spartacus brings together Kirk Douglas and Stanley Kubrick. And of course, we talk a lot about Kubrick in our shows here, not only because of the moon thing, but because him being a fantastic director. But it's because of Douglas that the Blacklist was finally retired by hiring James Dalton Trumbo to write the script for Spartacus and actually use his own name. That's a big deal. And I know it was a while ago, but very important lesson to learn. Oh, you know what I read? I'm going to read this right straight to you because it's kind of cool. A company called Spin Launch. Remember last week we talked about there being a centrifuge in my skull because, you know, the brain was so small. Spin Launch is a space company that took up residence in a Long Beach warehouse, and it's building a giant centrifuge that will sling rockets into space, or I guess will sling satellites into space. The firm's founder and chief executive predicts the system will be able to do 5 launches a day, whereas most rocket companies can't do that in a month. So please call me, email, or visit www.drheckham.com or www.theeducatedretirementradio.com, or just email me, bestloantoday@gmail.com, bestloantoday@gmail.com. My phone number, 866-955-2233. That's the off-air number, 866-955-2233. Knowledge is power, and your information will always be respected. Won't be sharing it or won't keep bugging you. So know the facts, compare the numbers, it's not religion, it's math. Now, but it's more than just math, because it's not just the numbers. It's what happens to your life after you do it. And it's much too important an issue to ignore, and you certainly don't want to eliminate it based on not fully understanding it. So hang on. We're going to take a close look at flagellants with Flash Gordon, and review the hanging of Pinocchio. So one more time, write that number down. You got your pen there? 866-955-2233. And do I have a day job? I do. I know, that's lucky. My NMLS number is 384565 at a company called The Loan Source. My Department of Real Estate number, although I don't sell real estate, but I'm under their umbrella also, 792630. So we here on this program, we believe in changing the status quo. Families and people need to be active, not reactive. And I do this to make friends and expand our network. So today is National Bubblegum Day. Now, I was going to bubble some gum, but I was never any good at that. But it is said that there is something about keeping the jaw closed and chewing that makes the brain focus and concentrate. I guess that's what I don't do. You could do chewing tobacco too, though, couldn't you? Anyway, make yourself more focused. So originally, bubble gum was called Blibber Blubber. I kind of like that. Blibber Blubber, and that was in 1926. And it wasn't very good stuff because it just kind of attached itself to the chewer's face. Now, it might make me look better, but most people, that wasn't the case. And that was fixed by a guy named Walter Dremmer in 1928, calling it Double Bubble. And that's still what's there today, Double Bubble. We still use the same formula. And Sean, do you remember, and I don't know, do you do bubble gum?
No, I sure don't.
Neither do I. Well, of course, you can tell by what we just learned that since I do not concentrate on anything, I'm all over the place, not just me, but my brain. I don't do that. So it used to come with comics, and I don't know whether it still comes with comics anymore. Does it? You don't know either, I'm sure.
No clue.
But if anybody does, let us know, or just call and let Sean know so he can pass that on to the rest of us. Now, this guy, what's his name again? Walter Dremmer. He died on his 94th birthday. And this is great stuff. Not dying particularly. Who knows? But anyway, Saturday Night Live reported that his body was found stuck under a theater seat. You got to admit, that's pretty funny. It's not as funny as taking a break, though, because I think that's what we need to do. So keep yourself unstuck from theater seats and hang on for a minute. Nice music there. A lot of strength to that music. But let's get back to the Educated Retirement Radio here on KMET, the Mighty Met. Oh, Sean, just to let you know, I looked up KMET and I found some stuff about the Mighty Met. So anyway, that's pretty cool. We have history, not just because I'm old, but we have history. Look us up, not KMET, but me up. I look them up too. The Educated Retirement Radio.com. And again, one more quick, 866-955-2233, 866-955-2233 to discuss ideas. And why? Because you need to know more about the choices you really have and how to protect what you have. I have a team of experts, and you're going to listen to one or hear one today, that can and will help you. So please make use of them. Call me, and I can direct you to anyone who you hear on this show and others, or just ask for their numbers if you don't see them, if you don't look at the YouTube channel or whatever and go back into history. Speaking of history, whose birthday is it today? Buster Crabbe. And Buster busted into this world in 1908 and flew away in 1983. So, yeah, decent lifetime. He was born Clarence Lyndon Crabbe, and he was a two-time Olympic swimmer champion, gold medalist, who starred in over 100 films. He portrayed Tarzan, Flash Gordon, and Buck Rogers. The only actor really to play the three most popular pulp fiction heroes of the 1930s. I think they're still heroes. I think we need to see some more Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. But Tarzan, the Fearless, from 1933, was one of the serials lasting 12 episodes, and they were usually on Saturday. Sean, I don't think you're young enough to remember that, but I used to love to go to the movies on Saturday matinees to see. You'd see two movies, you'd see a cartoon, you'd see a newsreel, and you would usually see like a 15 or 20 minute episode of one of these adventures that would always leave you cliffhanging at the end. Although Cliffhanger was a pretty good movie, I think one of the best that Stallone did. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. But that was, and you know what? It kept people coming back. You didn't want to miss one. Even if you didn't want to see the movies, you still wanted to pay your 25 cents to get into the theater. So Flash Gordon in 1938 was the original one, just called Flash Gordon, most expensive, costing $350,000. That was big time. Now they're in the millions and billions, but that was for sets and special effects. And he saved $3,700 from his acting to pay for law school in case his contract was not renewed. Now, again, you know, I like to show Laserdisc if I can, because on account of they're bigger. So there's the first one that came out, just called Flash Gordon, $350,000 worth. And here's the second one. What was the sub name to that? Uncut. Oh, Trip to Mars. So Flash is going to take a trip to Mars. And Sean, you know they were taking names for people volunteering to go to Mars. Would you be on that list?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. I thought about it. You know, I'm too old. They never take me. People are always saying, well, it's a one-way trip, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, but that's another show, as Alton Brown would say. That's another show. Charles Dickens was also born on this day in 1812 and lived to 1870. So he wasn't around, well, whatever, in those days. But, you know, you do hear about some people in those days living very long lives. So Charles, or Chuck, as we'll call him here, is known as the greatest novelist of the Victorian age, and he was a school dropout. So remember, school's important, but don't give up if you're not in school. So he dropped out when his father was incarcerated in debtor's prison, which I've barely kept out of a lot of my life. Now, one of it, you know, the most popular novel while Dickens was alive was Little Dorrit. And that has to do with debtor's prison. And it's getting too heavy for me to carry these things. There's been a couple of productions of this. Usually longer ones, most of them, like this one from the BBC, and highly recommended. So, certainly no reason to go through all of the books of Chuck, but we can go through some of the great films from those books, and what comes to mind is David Lean's films of the Dickens novels, and like Great Expectations, which I think is still one of my favorite films no matter what. Then there was Oliver and so many more, not to mention so many more versions of the same ones. So both of those, Great Expectations and Oliver, they were with Alec Guinness, who also co-wrote the screenplays as a very young man. And it included that amazing role of him playing Fagin, making him look about 50 years older than he really was. And that role was done much later, again, in the Carol Reed directed version of that, which used Ron Moody as Fagin, another great performance. So, by the way, Guinness also gave a tremendous performance in Little Dorrit. I mean, really good, in that BBC thing that was there. And, today's people seem to know Alec Guinness only from Star Wars. And, I mean, he was a genius right from the beginning of filmmaking, film writing, acting, incredible stuff. So go see it if you haven't, but you probably have. On that note, I'm babbling on because why? Because I'm not chewing bubble gum. So let's take a break so we can get back and on to Joe. Thanks for being with us. Be with us again in a minute from now. Welcome back to The Educated Retirement, here with me, Jay Kaplan, and we're getting ready to bring in our guest, Joe. Now, before I saw it was getting close to the bottom of the hour, so I wanted to bring Joe in, and I'm going to finish up the things about the two more movies I was going to talk about quickly here. And then we'll still be on to Joe at the bottom of the hour, or very close to it. So this is going to be a couple of strange things, though. So it's worth talking about. On this day in history, two really great movies were released. Pinocchio in 1940, and of course, I got this, which just. Well, where are you? Okay. See? That's Pinocchio, in case you don't know. Okay, now. And there's a better one of Pinocchio. Well, maybe not better, but different. In any case, this Pinocchio is a picture disc. I've got probably a whole set of them. They ain't worth a whole lot, but there they are. Okay. This was Walt Disney's second animated full-length film. In fact, it was the second fully animated or fully-length animated film ever. A groundbreaking achievement using rotoscoping, which we're not going to get into this time, but we will in the future. We've got some guests, some past clients, I'm sure can add a lot to what that is and why. But Pinocchio was the first animated film to win an Academy Award for Original Song and Best Song. Walt Disney himself won an honorary Oscar in 1939. And it was based on an 1883 fairy tale called, guess what, Pinocchio, written by Carlo Collodi, Collodi, and it was a much darker tale. Pinocchio was stabbed and hung by assassins, rescued and turned into a real boy by a child with blue hair, whoever that is. Jiminy Cricket was hit by a hammer by Pinocchio by mistake while Jiminy was giving him good advice. And Sean and Joe, you thought you knew Pinocchio, right? This is Pinocchio, a pretty dark story. The voice of the whale, Monstro, was the same voice as Tony the Tiger, and his name was Thurl Ravenscroft, not to be confused with Ravenswood of Indiana Jones fame. Also, he's also featured in the Haunted Mansion Disneyland as one of the voices. Now, here's another upside-down kind of story that's not quite what we thought. If we look at all, here we go. Mel. Blazing Saddles came out in 1974, the first film to include audible sounds of flatulence, considered one of the great comedies of all time. And I guess it was okay to say that. I was, in my past career on a different station, I talked about National Dog Flagellants Appreciation Day, and it was cut out, but I didn't use the word flagellations. Okay. Written by Mel. Now, here's something I didn't know. That was written by Mel Brooks and Richard Pryor, so the Richard Pryor part was new to me. John Wayne declined the part. Yeah, like, that's a surprise. Next was Johnny Carson. Then the part went to Ging Young, who became overwhelmed with alcohol withdrawals, and the part went eventually to Gene Wilder. Now, that's kind of strange because the character in the film used a lot of alcohol. And to end on a darker note, eventually Ging Young killed his wife, then himself, a murder-suicide. So, wow. And that's from one of the greatest comedies of all time. So let's not forget that these movies themselves were very uplifting and funny, and that their real legacy is just that.